Hi, welcome to Laura's World. Oh my goodness gracious, my friend John is coming over. We've been wanting to do this interview for a really long time, and he's from Palm Springs, and I told him I was coming out for a couple of days, and he said, let's do it in person. So I'm excited. I was just saying before you got here that I've been asking you to do this with me for months. And a long time in the making. You asked me to come to a Zoom meeting.
Oh, right.
Yes. So you're like,
to lead my Zoom meeting.
Yeah. So I was cracking up because you had said something about for the past 10 years, I've woken you up every
morning.
Every morning.
Ding.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, ding.
Yeah.
Because I don't silence my phone. And there's a 3-hour time difference.
Yeah. And I apologize for that.
No, I love it. I mean, if I need to be 100% honest, I'm up.
Anyway.
I get up at 5 a.m.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of sending them at like 4. But I do those things, John, I started getting those just for today's periodically in the beginning. And when I would get them, I would sometimes go, wow, this is really great. But I would get them like maybe, very randomly.
Like, just so you know, sometimes I download it. Like, this is what you sent today. Smile, it's Tuesday with a pair of tennis shoes on a heart. And it reminded me of someone.
Okay.
Like it brought a memory of someone that is really special. And so I downloaded it and keep it on my phone. And so, just so you know, getting those things is not just for naught. Like, they have meaning and special. They can actually touch someone or jar up a wonderful, beautiful memory of the day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to let you know, my first time that I met you in LA, I never met you before. I was a nervous wreck because I'm meeting all my brother's friends, and I went to go get my phone. I had put it up on the top of the refrigerator, and I went to get it, and I'm going through it, and I got pictures of your ass. You took pictures of it. I was like,
on your phone.
On my phone.
Yeah. I do things like that.
I love it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And nice to meet all of me.
All of you. No, I loved it. And from that moment on, I'm like, all right, this is somebody that I could really wrap my head around.
Well, because you gotta have fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to have any fun.
Yeah, you gotta have fun. I know.
It was my
I don't think anybody does. I think everybody thinks it's over. I'm never going to have fun again. Yeah. But I think it all relies on whatever anybody's interpretation of fun is.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to reorganize what your interpretation of fun is.
Absolutely. But thank you for my jump into sobriety out in LA.
Yay.
But the reason why we're here, when I think of people in sobriety and who inspire me, you are way at the top of my list, honestly, because you've been doing it for so long. You show how fun it could be, and when there are problems or situations, how to handle things in sobriety, because we do it, we do it different, you know.
I have a post-it on my computer that I stare at every single day. It says, does it need to be said? And then it says, does it need to be said by me?
Wow.
And you have no idea how much trouble it keeps me out of. Because I have opinions, and I know it all, and I can tell you exactly the way you should be doing things. So does it need to be said?
Yeah.
And does it need to be said by me?
Wow.
Yeah. So.
But I would love for you to share your story of what was happening with you and why you decided to get sober.
Well, I didn't really decide to get sober.
Okay.
That just sort of happened.
That was an accident. It was decided for you.
It was a 100% accident. Yes.
Okay.
Before I had gotten sober, I had never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. Never.
Okay.
Never. Put it like this. I grew up thinking the lifestyle I was living was the lifestyle that everybody lived, and that's the way that things were. That's why all my examples prior as a kid were, you partied, you had fun, and you had very little responsibility.
Okay.
Or you had very little respect for others, or especially yourself. And so when I got sober, it's strictly because I got 3 DUIs in 1 week.
In 1 week?
In 1 week. Well, the first one, I didn't get a DUI. The first one, I got arrested. I was having a huge fight with my boyfriend at the time, and who was very violent and abusive towards me and would beat me all the time. We were in the middle of a big fight, and we were at his mother's driveway. It was late at night, and he was in the middle of a rage, and he had been beating me in the car driving to his mother, and he got out of the car to check to see if the front door was open. And I thought to my head, I need to get out of here. Okay. And I backed out of the driveway, and he jumped in front of my car. And I thought, I'm gonna get killed tonight for trying to get away right now. So I have 2 choices: to either get beaten the shit out of or run this guy over. And I chose to run the guy over. And I just floored it, and he went flying over my car. And unfortunately, there was a cop sitting right there watching the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I got pulled over, obviously. I was up in this little town called Newhall, which is up by Magic Mountain, but back in the 80s, there was really nothing there. And the cops were super cool. They were like, is that your lover? And I was nervous to say yes, because, gay and all up in that little town. And I said, yeah. And they're like, oh, is he really drunk also? And I was like, oh. What do you mean also?
Also, what do you mean?
Yeah. And,
I'm not.
Yeah, kind of. And I said, yeah. And he goes, were you guys having a fight? And I said, yeah. And they took my driver's license, and they came back, and they were like, okay, here's what's going to happen. We don't really want to arrest you on a DUI because you're really drunk. They said, but you have 2 warrants for your arrest, so we have to take you in on the 2 warrants for your arrest. I was like, oh, good, great. Okay. So we, that was not Lori barking. Anyway, long story short, I got taken in. They told me to just sit there and be quiet, so no one in the police station would know I was drunk. And I called my sister, and she came and got me at 6 a.m. the next morning. And then it was a big joke. It was a big giggle with my friends. And, I went out and got drunk that day. And then the next day, I got, we were out partying. I was driving home late at night, and I got pulled over again, got arrested for a DUI. And then 3 days later, it was Sunday tea dance, and, partying with my friend Louise and James, and, it was time to leave, and I'm coked out of my brains, and I'm drunk out of my mind, and, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and, I got pulled over again, and Louise is in the car with me, and a cop walks up to the door, and he goes, have you been drinking? And I just looked this cop in the eye, and I said, yeah, I have. And Louise hits me and goes, stop. And he goes, a lot? And I said, yeah, a lot. And he goes, more than 10? And I said, more than 20. And Louise is screaming at me. She's screaming at me in the car. The cops are telling her to be quiet. It's a shit show. And they said, have you done any drugs? And I said, yes, I've done a lot. And they're like, what's your drug? And I said, cocaine. And they're like, okay, step out of the car. And they're like, we're going to have to do a sobriety test. And I went like that. And that's what I said. I looked at the cop, and I was like, well, that's silly. I just told you. I just admitted it. I'm drunk and high. And he goes, we just have to do it. And I was like, okay. All right. And Louise is out of the car, and she's screaming. Anyway, so I get arrested. And it was the 3rd time in a week that I got arrested. And in between then, I had made it to the hospital because I was bleeding out of every orifice. I had blood coming everywhere. It was alcohol poisoning. And I remember so clearly the doctor coming in and asking me if I drank a lot. And I said, I don't. And he said, well, do you drink every day? And I said, I do. And I think he knew. Of course. But he just looked at me and he said, I would just cut back if I were you. And then they released me. As you know, arrested 3 times in 1 week doesn't look good to the courts. So I got sentenced to a zillion AA meetings where you have to get your court card signed. Okay. Alcohol diversion school, driving school. I had 3 things that I had to do weekly and stuff. And I remember clearly asking my friend Winston, I had to go to these things called Alcoholics Anonymous classes. And he goes, they're not classes, they're called meetings. And he goes, oh, I've been before. I've had a DUI. I've been before. I'll go with you to the first one. I can show you. Like, it's no big deal. Like, you just go and you get your court card signed, and you go to the bar and drink.
Okay.
Oh, great. Oh, my God. It sounds like a party. Right.
I'm in.
Yeah. So he didn't go to my first one with me, but I did go to the first meeting at the West Hollywood Drug and Alcohol Center. It was on Santa Monica Boulevard above the pizza place. And I walked in, I was so full of shame. And I walked in like right when the meeting started. I sat in the back, had my head down, and just stared at the floor. And I stared at the floor for the entire meeting. I can't tell you one thing I heard, except at the end they were doing these things called cakes. People were taking birthday cakes. And I thought, well, that's odd. They're taking birthday cakes like at this meeting. And it was for sobriety, celebrating sobriety. And this guy took a cake for 1 year, and they said, Jack will be taking a cake for 1 year and stuff. And I looked up, and it was this guy, Jack, that I knew. Like, that I used to drink with and party with, and you know.
You know.
You know. And I was so embarrassed. And you know what my first thought was? My first thought was, I'm so embarrassed. If Jack sees me here, I have to get out of here before he sees me, because he'll think poorly of me. And he's up there taking a cake for 1 year. And I thought, I'm so embarrassed. And I got up and ran out of the room.
Did you?
Did not get my court card signed. And I did not get my court card signed for 1 month. And I went every single day to that meeting.
Really?
7 days a week for 1 month. I went there. Yeah, I was
But you didn't get it signed.
too embarrassed to go up and ask for a signature on my court card. So full of shame, so embarrassed to be there, so like pathetic.
But you were going.
And I had no self-esteem. I also didn't feel like I deserved to have my court card signed. And I went, but I would leave the meeting, go to my bar, the Gold Coast on Santa Monica Boulevard, and get drunk.
Okay.
Yeah, my bartender had my regular bartender down there. He would have my drinks waiting for me at my bar stool. You know, you have your bar stool that, you know, he has your bar, right? Your bartender, your bar stool. And I drank at this little seedy bar called the Gold Coast because everybody left you alone and you could just drink. Yeah, just drink. And then I continued this and continued this and continued this. And I had realized that I had gotten my court card signed. But I still was going to the meeting and then going to get drunk at the bar.
What do you think that was?
I don't know, because I promise you, I really subconsciously cannot tell you one thing I heard. I can't tell you anything.
You think it was just a part of
Well, I don't know if it's part of me.
routine?
Yeah, I don't know if it's part of me loving a routine or me being a routine, or, you know, if I were going to be 100% honest, I would have to tell you it was mostly because I had nowhere else to go.
Okay.
You know, at that point, I didn't have a ton of people that wanted to be around me.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot of friends. No one, you know, I was kind of like a pariah. And so it wasn't, you know, I wasn't welcome in those circles. And, you know, I could go sit in this room and then go sit at my bar stool and chat with my favorite bartender. And, you know, he was my favorite bartender because he poured strong drinks. You know, that's why he was my favorite. And he was super, super, super cute. So I remember walking into that bar on November 4th, 1986, and he had my drink waiting for me. My drink was vodka on the rocks with a shot of Southern Comfort. And I would shoot the Southern Comfort and then nurse the vodka rocks and then shoot a Southern Comfort and then do another. And because I love whiskey, because it burned,
My favorite.
burned, and I loved it. It was like almost like a guilty punishment. You know what I mean? It was like, and November 4th, 1986, and I went in and Tom had my drinks waiting there for me, and I sat there for a second and I looked at him and I said, you know, Tom, I don't think I'm gonna drink tonight. I think I'm gonna have cranberry juice. And Tom looked and goes, yeah, I don't blame you. You were really in bad shape last night. You must be really hungover. And I didn't even skip a beat. I said, oh, I don't get hungover anymore. I don't have hangovers. I don't get in bad shape anymore. I said, I think I'm an alcoholic and I want to stop drinking. I know. That was not premeditated. I had every intention of having a drink when I left that meeting to going to that bar. When I got out of my car to walk into that bar, I had every intention of having a drink. When I sat on the bar stool, I had every intention of having a drink. I don't know where that came from. And this Tom McGillett, looked me in the eye and said, I'm 5 years sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and anything I can do to help you, I will.
Your favorite bartender.
My very bartender.
That's
And so
Sorry.
that's the story.
Yeah.
That's the story. The bigger picture is there was a reason I went and drank with this bartender every single day. And so, in true John Pascal fashion, of never following any direction whatsoever, I sat in that bar every single day with Tom, drinking cranberry juice for my first 11 months of sobriety. I would go to my meeting, I would leave, and I would go sit on my bar stool and drink cranberry juice with Tom.
Wow.
And he was a lifesaver to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're crying.
I know.
People are crying over
Well,
here. You guys
it gets
all run.
worse
Yeah.
actually now before it gets better. So then, so my first 11 months. And then at 11 months, about 10 and a half, 11 months, Tom says, John, I need to talk to you and stuff. He's like, hey, I got to show you something. I'm really worried. And I said, okay. And he goes, come to the bathroom. I have to show you something. He started undoing his pants. And I just thought, oh, hallelujah. And he showed me his growing area. And he had, all these purple spots there, which, it was the, beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And there was Kaposi sarcosis and sarcoma. And I said, you better get to the doctor, dude, like quick. It's that new, gay disease, that AIDS, and you should go. And, my beautiful bartender was dead 3 weeks later. And so I felt really lost because that was the only thing I had. I had not participated in Alcoholics Anonymous, even though I had gone every single day. I had just sat in a meeting, never met one person. I would go in late and I would leave early so I wouldn't have to have any contact with anybody, and I could race to Tom. And that was my only connection to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
In 11 months, I had never gotten a phone number or chatted with anybody or gone to fellowship or anything. And now Tom was gone. And I did only thing I knew to do was to go to a meeting because I thought, I'm going to drink over this. And I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting out in the San Fernando Valley at a little church on Moore Park. And I walked in late, and the only seat was all the way across the room. And I went over and I took the seat and I sat there. Sat through the meeting, and it was so crowded. I couldn't get up and leave before the meeting was over, and so I sat. We did the Lord's Prayer. My nerves were like, and we did the Lord's Prayer, and I got up and I was beelining it for the door, beelining it, and this guy jumped in front of me, literally jumped. I couldn't get around him. He said, "Hey, I noticed that you leave the meetings early, and no one ever gets a chance to talk to you." I can't believe I was noticed. Because I thought I was so unnoticeable. And someone was noticing that my routine, my pattern, someone I didn't even know. Until that moment, I couldn't even tell you if I had ever seen this guy again before, ever.
Right.
And he said, do you want to go to coffee with me? And I said, I don't. And he said, do you have something to do? And I said, I don't. And he said, well, then you're coming to coffee with me. We're going to do bars up on Ventura Boulevard. And I said, I know it. And I said, okay, I'll meet you there. And he said, my name is Dalton. And I said, hi, Dalton, I'm John. And I walked in to do bars looking for Dalton. And I see in the back him waving, and there's 10 people at the table. Yeah. And I was like, how do I get out of here? And he's waving me back. And I wanted to run. I don't ever remember being so terrified in my life. And so I went and I sat at that table. And I get emotional because it's literally the night my life changed. I sat at that table for 2 hours with my head down, not saying a word, and listening to these guys. And they were all talking about absolutely nothing. Like nothing. It sounded like wah, 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 wah. And I remember sitting there thinking, God, I want this so bad. Like I just wanted to be a part of the nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like I so wanted to be a part of it. Like, and then one said, oh, did you meet that newcomer tonight? I gave him my number. And one said, oh yeah, I gave him my number too, and stuff like that. And someone else said, yeah, I gave him my number, and like And I spoke up for the first time.
What'd you say?
In 2 hours. I said, I've never gotten a phone number, and Alcoholics Anonymous. And they were like, what? And I said, I've never gotten a phone number in Alcoholics Anonymous. And 10 pieces of paper came out. This was pre-cell phone. You wrote your number down and gave it to someone. And I got 10 phone numbers that night. And I remember clearly getting up, going, I'm never going to call one of these numbers. I'll never call one. Like I just knew me. I just never called one. And as we got to the door, this hand came across my arm, and it was Dalton. And Dalton said, give me your phone number. And I gave him my phone number. And 2 days later, he called me and he said, do you want to go to the zoo with me and my friend Derek? And you have no idea how many hours I took to try to decode what that meant. Do you want to go to the zoo with me and my friend Derek? There had to be a meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Something had
There's
to be
a
up.
reason,
Yeah,
They want something. What do they
what's
want?
going on? What is this a trick?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I had somebody off. I was going through some stuff and losing, my home, and a woman came to me and says, I have a room for you if you'd like to stay. And I was like, what do you want? What do you want from me? Like there was no reason why they want to be nice.
Yes.
I didn't get that.
I had never had.
No.
So
There was always something for something.
Yes, I was not familiar with this. So I said yes. And I went to the zoo, and we were there for 6 to 7 hours. Me and Dalton and Derek. Two guys I had never, ever had anything to do with other than coffee at that night. And it was the best day of my life. To this day.
Isn't that wild?
It changed my life. That day was a defining point in my sobriety, in my life, my willingness, my acceptance. Everything changed for me that day.
Wow.
We all three became thick as thieves. We grew a big, huge fellowship. The only thing mattered was getting through the day, what meeting we were going through that night, and then all of us were broke, poor. So we would do, after the meeting, we would each give $2.
Okay.
And then 2 people would go to the grocery store to buy enough food to cook for like 12 people.
Okay.
With everybody chipping in $2.
$2.
And we would go back to Dalton's, where it would be movie night. We would watch a movie and cook a big meal, and we would all sit there and watch a movie and eat.
Sounds great.
Doesn't it sound amazing?
It does. Sounds great. I love that.
It was amazing